Late at the age of 32, and because I was working in the theatre and a very long-running show that got very boring, I needed a hobby. I bought a writing pad at Smith's, a ball pen, and I wrote. I wrote stories of my childhood in the north of England, in a steelworks town by the gate. That was my very first play, and it was, I couldn't type and I couldn't spell, but luckily the boss's daughter had just taken a course in typing and shorthand, and I asked if she'd write it out, and she did. That's my wife, Melanie. Now, that was 30 years ago. Very little Doctor Who, I was aware of it, as every child of my age was, but I was working in the theatre and I didn't really have the time for television at that degree. So I wasn't hooked on it by any means. I just thought it was very interesting in the background to my life. And it wasn't much later when I became an established writer that I thought, I'd like to write a Doctor Who, how do I go about it? And that was my start with my real interest in seeing Doctor Who, seeing where they'd got to many years into production. And it was 1980 something, I pitched for a Doctor Who. Having seen how they worked, and the story of what I pitched and why I pitched is very interesting, because I looked at the series, the storylines of the series, and thought, what haven't they got? It's a very, very rich stew of storylines. And I looked at what they didn't have, and to me, the number one factor is it was the TARDIS never broke down. It was the most boring bit of a kit, because it was always perfect. Wrong way around. It was always breaking down. He spent all his time mending it, fixing it. And I suddenly thought the best storyline is to have him go to TARDIS and discover there's nothing wrong with it. What is he going to do with his episode? And that was my starting point. And he actually starts off the episode with saying to his assistant at that time, was Perry, he said, what kind of, this is tragic, awful, what's the matter? He said, the TARDIS, there's nothing wrong with it. And she said, that's good, sure. He said, no, what do I do? And she said, we must have a holiday. We'll take a holiday. And that was the start of the episode, and the full story started from that point. As a radio playwright, on the whole, I resisted script editors because they all wanted to put themselves quite rightly on top of a story and have something they can tell their friends about the lines. And I worked as a singular writer. I did a series of stories that I wrote start to finish. I pitched the idea, got the commission, wrote the story, and then your producer becomes your editor, which was the way of it in radio drama. And in television, it was the same. When I was commissioned to write my first television, the first one was based on a very successful 2 radio plays, and a producer called Innes Lloyd sent a producer-to-be to interview me and see whether I'd like to write a television play. And I said, yes, please. And I was commissioned to write my first TV play, Butterflies Don't Count, by Wally K Daly. Brilliant. The script was finished, accepted, paid off. We received the fee. Well, I think it was 5 writers or 6 writers who all had series in that, of that series that was cancelled. And Michael Grade said, no, I've had this, I don't want any more of those. And it was cancelled. And the sad thing for me was I was always working on Juliet Bravo at the same time. So I had Juliet Bravo on Doctor Who. And I was in the corridor at the BBC when the crew the staff were coming along and saying something has got to be cancelled. There's not enough money for both series. And they had to guess which one. And they thought it might be Doctor Who was cancelled. I said, it must be Doctor Who. I've got that one. I'm writing that. And I said, well, it'll be Juliet Bravo. It can't be Juliet Bravo neither, because I'm working on that as well. But it was actually Doctor Who was cancelled, and I was very, very disappointed. It was maybe a year or 2 before we were all paid. All the writers were paid, which was fantastic, really. And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, W.H. Allen said we would like to write. We'd like to the books of the original first Lost Doctor Who's. They were called the Lost Doctor Who series by then. And I said, how much did you pay? And they told me. I'd never written a book. I'd written 5 adaptations of my own work, but I'd never written a book. So that was a challenge, and an interesting challenge. But luckily I had a friend who read books, so he told me how to write a book. And we sat down together and did it. It was the grammar I didn't get. I'd never been to school really. I left school by the time I was 15. I knew very little, if zero, about grammar. But it was a very interesting concept. I just write dialogue the way we speak. I have no pretensions about using big words, I just the way we speak. And in fact, I had a grammar checker when I started off writing Biker Grove, children's series Biker Grove, did 12, 13 episodes. And I got a grammar checker to tell me. And it would never accept any sentence I made as being a proper sentence. It was grammatically incorrect. So I might say, you know what I mean, like pet? This is not a proper sentence. It probably wasn't. Very infrequent, because I think where the science of making television has gone in the last 15, 20 years is just so extraordinary, out of this world, that I stick to my own world of drama, much smaller. I'd love to write one now, but it's very unlikely that I would be invited to write one, because it's a different style to what I use, which is I'm a comedy stroke thriller through and science fiction writer. And the idea of using modern technology, that would be terrific, but I think there's other people are much better suited to do that far out thing than I am. I just never give up. That's a wonderful thing. No matter how young you get, you keep writing all the time. And I've got a number of major projects, but the big one that I think of with enthusiasm, my hometown, Grangetown, small northeastern town, steelworks town, is very slowly disappearing because of the fact that the houses have all been pulled down and gone now. But at some point, the people who invented steel manufacture needed to build a town for the workers. This was the late 1800s. Where did the workers come from? They come from Wales, they come from Ireland, and they had to build a town, which was the glory of the architectural profession at that time, when architects from all over the country came to Grangetown to look at what was 8 streets of houses, 2 up, 2 down, main road in the middle and a road on either end. And in that they crammed every person, working class person, from Ireland, Wales, etc. And my street, Vaughan Street, to my mind the best street of the 8, was a Catholic street, and the other 7 were Protestant streets. And this was the biggest battlefield you'd ever known. And so it went on till I left there, years later. But major project, as I say, is the creation of a steelwork street in the late 1800s, which is a running 15-minute series of stories set with the people from that place between 1800 and 1964.